Hello, everyone, and welcome to Here's Your Prescription podcast. My name is Sarah,
And I'm Desiree.
and today we wanted to talk about toxicity.
I spent my life being next in line, hoping somebody's gonna listen. A story untold's never gonna unfold, so I'm gonna make the best of mine. Here's your prescription.
We wanted to talk about toxic relationships, for example, like your partners, friends, family members, how families handle toxic members, and also what is expected of you and your family in those type of situations. So let's go ahead and start with friends, toxic friends. So what would you consider a toxic friend, Desi?
Honestly, someone who expects everything from you but doesn't give anything back. Like, they expect you to check in on them, but they don't do the same for you. That's honestly a big one.
Uh-huh.
Like, I've had friends like that where you never hear from them unless you reach out first. And
Uh-huh.
that to me is like a huge sign of a friendship that's toxic, someone that's not good for you, you know? If they never support you, if you have good things going on in your life and they don't support those decisions, rather they just give you like, oh, well, this could happen or that could happen instead of just being there for you, that's another
Mm-hmm.
sign.
Yeah. Um, for me, all of the things that you have said, um, counts as a toxic friendship, as well as like when they usually just come to you when they need something. Um, like it be like, oh, um, they need you for, money, or they need you to come support them in some way, but they never come and support you, or like they want you to show up to their things but they'll never show up to your things. Or the most common one that I feel has happened to me a lot is they'll be very nice to you when they're alone with you, but in front of other friends they're assholes
Mm-hmm.
and they treat you bad. Or they talk behind your back. Like they'll say one thing to you, but then to other friends they'll be like, "Oh yeah, so and so, this and that."
Exactly. I've definitely experienced that a lot. Um, which sucks, but I mean, I feel like everyone has. Yeah, that's something I've experienced, like I said, quite a lot. Where they reach out to you for support, but like when you need them, for
Yeah.
the rare occasions that you do, they're busy or they don't have time or they've got too much going on, things like that. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of red flags to look out for. I take them as learning lessons, though. It sucks in the moment, but I mean, what can you do? I'd rather lose a friend who's like that than, you know.
So I would try to cut things off with those type of friends. Unfortunately, with the way that my life has been, I am a people pleaser, so I do tend to still talk to them, but it won't be as much. I usually kind of distance myself slowly until eventually I can just stop talking to them.
Yep, I've definitely done that. I've also had people do that to me. Not saying that, I mean, we all have our flaws. I've for sure been a toxic friend myself. But I've had people do that to me where they just slowly like back away. And then it leaves
Mhm.
you wondering like why until later on you
Uh-huh.
think about it and you're like, wow, I was an asshole.
It sucks, especially when, like, for example, I at least try to ask what their deal is. Most of the time they'll just like play it off or whatever. If they do that, then obviously I won't get my reply, but I'm gonna just slowly stop talking to you. But if somebody actually like tells me what's going on and you know we can kind of meet halfway, then I'll try to keep that friendship, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Now, with toxic relationships with like a partner, um like, what would you consider toxic?
Fucking everything. um, no, I've been in my fair share of toxic relationships. Um,
Uh-huh.
I always use my first relationship as a huge example of this. That's like the biggest lesson I've learned relationship wise. Mentally, emotionally, and one time physically abusive, but there's like you don't see them while you're in the relationship, but like looking back, definitely like you're like, okay, these are the red flags to look out for. Um, Controlling of everything you
Mhm.
do, not letting you talk to people, having to cut off people or unfollow people on social media because they don't like them. I mean, just feeling like you have no control. Like you have to run everything by them, make sure it's okay. You don't it's like walking on eggshells essentially, you know.
Yeah.
Like you have to just check in with them and make sure everything's okay. Like in that relationship that I had to ask them to even go anywhere. Like if I went somewhere with my mom, she'd get upset. You know?
What the fuck? That's your
Um,
mother. Hello?
I know. But yeah, and then it's just the super controlling. Like that's like the biggest thing I could think of is like when you have to start changing yourself or changing your life for somebody else, you need to run. You know,
Yeah.
not saying like your bad stuff or like you're able to be an asshole as well, but like they should accept you for you and like your life. If they don't like your friends, if you can't hang out with your friends or you have to cut people off like that, like that's, you know, not no
That
good.
is toxic. Yeah. That's a big red flag and you need to run.
Another thing that I noticed a lot too is, and I'm sure you've dealt with this, when they threaten to like harm themselves if you leave them or
Oh,
things along
yeah.
those lines or like being manipulative in that way, like you have to stay with me or this. Um, that's happened more than one time to me.
Oh, wow.
But that's another big one too. It's not normal. It's not right. Like if you're dealing
That's
with
not
that,
okay.
no, it's not at all. Um, if your family doesn't like them or they're trying to warn you that they can just feel something off about this person, 9 times out
Mhm.
of 10 they're right. You
Yeah.
know, people around you can see things that you don't while you're in it, so you need to
Mhm.
take other people's opinion like you need to like believe it. I mean, for like example, like my mom, she's always right about everything. I don't know how they do that. Um
Mhm.
but every bad relationship I've had, she's warned me about. And so it's like, okay, I wish I would have like known this before so I could have gotten out earlier, but again, you take them as life lessons.
Mhm.
Just look for the red flags and then don't accept them in the next relationship, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
it's never going to be perfect, but as long as you're making sure that you're taken care of and like you're not being treated right and you're treating the other person right, I mean, you know,
Right.
do you have any other ones that you could think of?
I mean, you live and you learn, right?
Yep, unfortunately.
Um, yeah, I mean, I would say cheating is toxic. Talking to other people while you're in a relationship is toxic. Um, Flirting with coworkers is toxic.
Mhm.
Uh, Posting things on social media to other people is toxic. Um, the whole "you don't post me on social media" is a little bit toxic.
Yeah.
In the sense that they're not, because okay, and I'm just gonna give this to you as an example. A lot of my previous relationships would do that because they wouldn't post me that we were in a relationship or anything about me.
Yeah.
But it turns out that like every single time it was because they were flirting with other people. They were talking to other people and sometimes they were cheating.
Yeah, and they don't want the other person or something to find out.
Right, that they're in a relationship and it's
Yeah.
like, what the fuck?
I understand some people aren't social media savvy or like they're not like all up in the social media and stuff like that. Like I understand that. Like oh, I don't post anything, so of course I'm not going to post you. Like but
Mhm.
like if your partner is mentioning to you how it kind of bothers them, like people don't know or things like that. I mean, at least give in to that and just do it for that reason. It doesn't take
Right,
much to make someone happy in that sense. But again, it's not a requirement, I don't think. But every once in a while, I mean, like it'd be,
right.
I
If you
guess,
don't like if they don't mention that they have a partner,
yeah,
like that's a big red flag.
I think
And
so. Yeah,
or like I said, coworkers, um, just random things like that is just toxic to me. Obviously, you live and you learn, and I know what to look for
exactly. Yeah, I don't know
now.
why I didn't think. Yeah, now, I don't know why I didn't mention cheating, but something to add on to that too is when they make you think that cheating's okay,
Oh my God.
or
Oh,
you're not giving me
uh,
enough attention,
mhm.
things like
Or,
that.
they try to pull the, "Oh, no, they're ugly. You're wrong. I'm not cheating on you.
Mm-hmm.
They're ugly." Or, "They have a kid. I would never be with someone that has a kid." But lo and behold, they're right there, doing
Yep.
them. Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, that shit's toxic. Run.
Yes, please, as fast as you can. Jesus, and it sucks too, because like especially like in your first relationships, you don't obviously know anything,
Oh my God,
um,
you don't.
and so you just take everything because you truly, I think, in that moment feel like this is all I'm gonna ever have, and they make you feel
Mhm,
like that too. I've had that said
mhm,
to me like you're never gonna find anyone else. Um, Years of experience in dating, and then I'm just gonna use an example. My little brother, had his first relationship. All the signs of my first relationship, like as toxic as it can be, and like
mhm,
I was trying to tell him like I've been there, like take my advice, like this is what's going on, you need to run. And of course, because he was so consumed in it, he wouldn't take anyone's word for anything,
mhm.
until the relationship ended and he stepped out and he was like, wow, you guys were right, she was crazy. um but it's just like that. I mean, if you're listening and someone is telling you, like, hey, something's wrong, please listen. I know it's hard,
Right,
but please listen. Step outside of your circle and look in with a new pair of eyes and, like, you know, because if
right.
someone else is mentioning it, there's probably something wrong, you know?
Yeah. And a
People,
big toxic thing, now that you're saying that, a big toxic thing is physical abuse.
oh, of course.
So, a lot of people stay for many reasons, obviously. But physical abuse is never okay. Never. And even if you're like, oh, this person only hit me once. It was, whatever. I asked for it for talking out or whatever. It's not okay. No one should ever put their hands on you for any reason
Exactly.
like that.
And if they say they'll never do it again, they're lying. If they have the
Yep.
capability and want to do it one time, it won't stop.
And sometimes it gets worse.
Yeah. So
No?
I understand why people do stay in relationships like that. It's hard. The manipulation, the abuse, you're afraid that if you leave, something's going to happen, obviously. Um,
Right.
but one thing that I've learned is it doesn't hurt to reach out for help. A lot of
Mhm.
people who are dealing with that kind of stuff tend to keep it to themselves, and then something happens, and then people find out that way, unfortunately. Um,
Yeah.
but reaching out for help or even advice or things like that, you know, I mean, whether it's just talking to a friend or something like that, don't just hold it into yourself. Try and seek help somehow. You know,
Right.
I've
And it's
noticed.
hard.
Yeah.
It's hard because, I've you know, my story, and
Uh huh.
the type of abuse that I've had, and, it's hard. It's really hard, especially trying to get help and, like, for example, your friends don't know how it feels like because they've never had to, deal with abuse. So it's hard to ask for help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Um.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. I mean, and then something, not necessarily with you specifically, but in general, like something happens. Doesn't have to be like really bad, but like, and then people
Yeah.
find out that way, and then it's like, I mean, there's something, not anything. Something can't be done all the time, but like just reaching out, trying, you know what I mean, is like
Yeah.
a first step. And so, um, yeah,
Not me tearing up right now.
I could tell. um,
Ah,
but yeah, uh, romantic relationships like that, like abusive romantic relationships, are so difficult. Harder than friendships, obviously.
yeah, way harder.
But another thing that another relationship that can be considered toxic as well is with your family. And a lot of people don't talk about that. Um,
Oh, yeah.
I think that's the worst is when, especially your close knit family, like your immediate family, and having people manipulate you and are toxic to you
Mhm.
in that sense. That's really difficult because, like, your
Mhm.
family's like for your entire life, all you've known. And so having to deal with that, it's like
Mhm.
that thing. It's like you pretty much take it because, like, you don't know what else to do. You know what I
Well, it's
mean?
your family, you know?
Mm hmm.
That's blood. That's, that saying, blood is thicker than water, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Um, Normally, how would your family handle toxic members?
Well,
I mean, I'm asking in the sense of because you're white,
mm-hmm.
your culture is different, so how would that be handled?
Well, my family specifically, especially my extended family, they're a lot of shit talkers. Like, a lot of rumors go around. I don't know if that's like a white thing. I don't know how that works, to be honest. But it's like high school petty. It's like that. So,
Oh, shit.
my family specifically,
Mhm.
um, when something happens, it gets spread around the family, and like people will, like, they talk. They'll never tell you that they know, but gossip is known. And so, what my family does is they sit and they wait for you to do something. So they'll get dirt on you. They'll wait for you to do something to someone else, and then they'll blow your shit open. Like, they'll
Oh,
tell
wow.
everyone. Um,
Jeez.
so there's a lot of dirt on family members that I know specifically, and it's like I'm waiting for the day that they try and do something because, like, it's like you don't want to mess with me because I've got a lot of stuff you don't know about, kind of thing. That's toxic. um,
My goodness.
I don't know where that comes from. My whole family's like that, especially my extended family. Sorry if you're listening, it's true. There's a lot of people that I don't talk to because they're toxic. Like, unfortunately, I have to say it. Some of my family members are really racist. Some of them are
Oh,
hard Republican and is super religious. Like,
oh my
and that's
goodness.
okay to be like that as long as you respect other people. But some of my family don't respect other people, and it's their way or the highway. They're not open minded about anything. And so I steer clear of those people. Um,
Uh-huh.
so there's toxic like that, which I can choose to step away from.
Uh-huh.
But then there's toxic like the relationship I have with my father. Like, there's things like that, close knit,
Uh-huh.
um, dad leaving, that type of stuff. Our relationship is okay now, but like for a very long time, maybe like 8 years of my life, it wasn't. It was a very toxic relationship between the two of us, and
Mhm.
we can get into that at a different time, like specific, like why I'm so fucked up, type of thing. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, I don't know. We didn't deal with that relationship in a healthy way. It was very toxic. Um, like I don't know how to explain it, like how my family handles it. I think the extended family is the best example, you know? Like, that's what we do, that's what they do. You can choose to step away or you can choose to be involved in it. And my close family, we chose to step away from it. We don't deal with that. I don't talk to them. If
Mhm.
we're at a family event, I don't go near them. Like, it's you're completely cut off. Like, I don't deal with people like that.
Mhm.
Um
I have a
and
question then
uh-huh.
with your extended family. You said that they're very Republican and they're very religious.
Mhm.
Did they say anything to you because you're gay?
A lot of them know. People usually keep their opinions to themselves, which is totally fine. I don't care what you think about me or my lifestyle. I
Uh-huh.
could care less. It doesn't matter to me as long as you're being respectful and you don't, you're not
Uh-huh.
being a dick about it. There
Uh-huh.
was some people, aka, there's pretty much one that I'm talking about, the really religious, racist one, who when I came out, texted me actually, and was like, I'm really disappointed in you for this lifestyle. Like, I thought you were better than this. I'm going to pray for you. And I literally responded and I told him, essentially, fuck off. I don't give a shit what you think about me.
Uh-huh.
That was when I was 18. So he was really the only person that said something. People
Uh-huh.
do have their opinions, but they don't really voice them because
Uh-huh.
they're not complete assholes. But,
Uh-huh.
and again, that's totally fine. You can think what you want, have your own views or opinions. I don't care as long as you're being respectful, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, for the most part, whether they're Republican or religious, for the most part, my family's pretty accepting of like everyone.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Um, there can be people on the more Republican side that are open minded about certain things. You know what I mean? Religious people as well. There are those hardcore, like my family's Catholic. There are those
Oh, yeah.
hardcore Catholics that like we have to live by the Bible and we have to do this. But majority of my family is they love their religion, but they also like people. You know what I mean? And so
Mhm.
they just pretty much accept you for you as long as you're living like a good life. Like, I had a conversation with my uncle not too long ago, and I told him I didn't really believe in God, but I believed in something. And he's like, as long as you're being a good person and you're living a good life and going on the right path, like, that's all that matters. You know?
Right.
A lot of them aren't religion pushers or things like that. They'll mention it to you and you'll have a conversation, but then you go your separate ways, knowing and accepting each other's opinions. And I think that's the healthy way to do it. You know?
Yeah.
If you're dealing with someone who's not willing to hear your side or be open minded and have a civil conversation, you need to drop them. you know? Um, but yeah, some people, not all of them, fortunately. But yeah,
Uh-huh.
there are those individuals that you'll find that will say something. You just, and me personally, I just don't care. So,
Right.
but yeah,
That's good.
like, I don't know. And again, I don't know if it's a white thing or if other
Mhm.
people's family who are white have that dynamic, like with the whole shit talking and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But I'm interested to know how your family and your culture handles that kind of stuff because I can only assume from what I've heard that it's wildly different. And so I'm interested in knowing how you handle that and, what the deal is with that.
So, with Latino households, or your family's everything. Family is put first. Family comes first every time. Um, you know, when there's toxic members of the family, you have to continue to see them in family things. You have to continue talking to them. You can't just really cut them off because they'll perceive you as you being the bad person. Um, so a lot of the times you're forced to talk to these people even though you don't want to.
Yeah.
Uh, Now, with that said, let's say you're actually standing up for yourself and you try to fight it and be like, no, I'm not gonna talk to them. They will give you a hard time about it. But, I mean, growing up, I saw this, like, all the time with a lot of, you know, family. I don't really necessarily wanna single anyone out in case they're listening.
uh,
But, like, the shit talking is there, the same. "Oh, did you hear so and so had a child out of wedlock, blah, blah, blah. Oh, they're a whore," or, "Oh, she was too young to have kids.
mm-hmm.
Now she's gonna drop out of school," or, "Wow, he's in a gang, like, he amounted to nothing," but then, like, they're at the family party and, "Oh my god, hey, I haven't seen you. Oh my god, love you, blah, blah, blah." Like, I saw that and I always thought that was, like, so wrong. So for me, at least, I've been trying to put up boundaries with family members. I've actually stopped talking to a lot of family members, and at first, like, um, people, I won't say who, started giving me shit for it, and, I'm like, "I'm not going to put my kids through that." They are going to learn that it is okay to cut family off. If they are being toxic, if they're not being good to them, they are allowed to stop talking to them. They are
Yeah,
allowed to not contact them, nothing with them, you know?
that's good.
Um, for the longest time, I was considered a bad person because I wouldn't talk to my father. And obviously, we'll get into that a little bit later. My relationship with my father was not that great.
Oh no.
Um, so I decided to stop talking to him when I left my house at the age of 17. I didn't talk to him until I was 22. And then I only talked to him when I was living with him and my mom at 22. And then unfortunately, he kicked me out after a few months of living with them. So I essentially was homeless and I lived out of my car. Um, but after that, I stopped talking to him. And I saw him a few times and I didn't say anything to him. He was such a toxic person, is a toxic person because, the family talks. So his side of the family always has chisme or gossip in English
Hmm.
about him, and like all the things that he does to his new wife, which is so sad. Um, but like I don't talk to him at all whatsoever, and I probably won't ever again, you know?
Yeah.
It's it sucks because, like, Latinos are all about family and they wanna force you, and I even had, aunts tell me that, "He's your dad, you need to talk to him, like, you have to forgive him because he's your father and there's only one father and blah, blah, blah." You know what? No, no, and that was my response. "No, I'm not gonna talk to him." And they can say whatever they wanna say about me, but I'm not gonna do it, you know? Um But another thing that I find funny is the fact that family members won't talk to each other for years, and I'm talking like 10 years, 15 years, and then they'll get together and start talking and hang out again. Like, what the fuck is that?
Like nothing even happened. Yeah.
Yeah, but they won't talk about the problem in the first place. That's the weirdest thing to me. Why can't you sit down and talk about it? What is so wrong about sitting down, talking about what happened, how that situation could have been better resolved, but they just pretend like it didn't happen and everything's okay and not no they didn't talk shit about each other all these years.
It would mend relationships and make things better, but I think it's people don't want to admit that they're wrong. People don't like
Mhm.
being wrong. And so having to sit down and have a conversation with someone and admit that is like extremely hard.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, an example is like when you try and tell your parent that they did something wrong and they deny it. Like
Mhm.
that's I mean, yeah. I wish it could be like that. It would make things so much easier, but no, it's like even me, sometimes it's hard. I don't want to admit that I'm wrong, or
Mhm.
like being vulnerable or being weak with someone like that.
But
It's
it's not
difficult.
weak.
That's
It's
what
not weak. That's actually very strong of you to do, You're
yeah.
admitting to being wrong, you're taking accountability, and, you know, you're being the bigger person. You're saying, "Hey, I fucked up, and you know what? It's okay." Now we're talking about it. Let me fix the situation. I'm sorry for, what I did, and, it. it is the world would be function better if we all, like, took accountability for our actions.
I think so. I wish that could happen. That would never it'll never happen, but um yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's topic things like that, like conversations like that is stuff I'm interested in. Like that's why we're talking about it. You know what I mean? Like it's
Mhm,
okay to like open up and like be vulnerable like that and like admit your
mhm,
wrongdoings and try and mend relationships and um like you said, you cut off your dad and you refused to talk to him again because other people said. I think that's great, and I love that you're teaching your kids that it's okay to cut people off because you need to make sure that you're good. You can't
mhm,
please other people before yourself. You really need to have your own back before you have anyone else's. And if there's a relationship in your life that's not good for you or it's hurting you mentally or anything like that, then it's okay to cut them off. Like and I don't like the whole family before anything because there are some friends that I've had that mean more to me than some of my family members do. Like they are there for me more than some family is. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like family doesn't have to be blood, and I think that's something that people need to understand and like accept because that is a fact. Like for a long time I didn't have a relationship with my father and
mhm,
I didn't see him like that and I refused to talk to him because he wasn't good for my life and he wasn't in a good place and I wasn't going to have that. It's not good for
mhm,
me. I don't care what anyone said. My mother was like, "Oh, you need to talk to him and like mend a relationship." No. Until he can admit that he's wrong, I was wrong in some circumstances, but until this other person can admit their wrongdoings and have a conversation with me and like want to be better for the
mhm,
relationship, I'm not having it. You know, um, but that's exactly why I love doing this, and I think this is a cool thing that we're doing because we can talk about things like this that people aren't
mhm,
usually wanting to talk about. People that are dealing with problems like that, if you just need to listen, not necessarily talk about it, but just need to listen and know that like this is stuff that people go through and like it's okay. You know,
mhm. Yeah,
I love that. I think this is I enjoy it, and I think it's good, and it'll be good for people to hear. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Um,
Shout out to all my cousins that still talk to me. Love you.
uh huh. Um,
And the ones that I don't fuck with, fuck you.
literally, no, but like I think you and I could have an entire episode, like hour-long episode about our father relationships.
Yeah, don't get me started, girl, 'cause,
uh,
I'll be there for a while, to
dudes.
tell everyone how this horrible person was to this horrible child,
Mm-hmm.
like, well, I'm not horrible, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that, that horrible person did to the poor innocent child, you
Mm-hmm.
know? Um, he's one of the reasons why I'm a people pleaser. I hate it. I wish I wasn't, but obviously I'm going to therapy and trying to fix that. But, I can't wait for that episode.
No, me too.
Uh,
That'll probably be a long one to be honest, because I've got a lot of shit too. Um,
yeah.
I wanted to ask a question in regards to
Sure.
relationships in general. If there
Mhm,
was someone that you cared about, friend, partner, or family member, um,
mhm.
have you ever brought the concerns up to them? Like, hey, this is what you're doing, you're being kind of toxic. Have you ever brought it up to them? And if so, what was their response? Like, how did they take that or respond to you?
So, um, I'm gonna give you an example. In one of my relationships, I brought up the fact that I didn't like that person talking to other females and um that it was not okay and it made me feel bad and basically that person told me tough shit, they're going to continue doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So my feelings didn't matter and I just, because I loved that person at the time, I just kind of took it. Um I've had um friends where I'm like, "Hey, this is going on," but they like basically deflect and just say that I'm the one in the wrong. Even though I've been there for them,
Hmm.
and I've always been there for them, but somehow it gets turned on me and I'm the toxic one. And I'm like, it hurts. I'm not gonna lie, it hurts. Some of my friends that I've lost over the years, I've cried for them, you know? You think you're so tight with with this person, and then all of a sudden they just drop you, for whatever reason, and they don't fucking tell you. They just say, "Hey, this is what's happening," and bye. And it just sucks.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. I think romantic relationships are like the best example for that kind of question. Um,
Mhm.
cause like I could use my father as an example, or
Right.
parents in general, where they
Uh-huh.
don't want to admit that they did anything wrong, and so pretty much the same concept. It's like you're lying, that never happened, and then it's something you just really never bring up again because
Mhm.
that's the only response you're ever going to get. But romantic relationships and friendships, I think, are a great example of that, where you notice that they're not checking in as much, or they're doing something that you're, in a romantic relationship that you don't think is okay. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And so you bring up your concerns, or this is hurting my feelings, this is making me feel a certain way, and they don't
Mhm.
listen,
Mhm.
or take your feelings into consideration. It's either they are defensive, or they try and throw it back on you, type of thing.
Mhm.
That's happened quite a bit, throughout my life with
Mhm.
friendships and romantic relationships, and that's tough. Like you said, it hurts a lot, especially. I think I might backtrack from what I said earlier. I think friendship losses can hurt more than anything.
Mhm.
You know, especially people that you thought you'd have around for a long time,
Yeah.
and then they ended up not being good people.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of experiences I've had. Obviously, you've had, and I'm sure a lot of other people have had that could answer that question in that way.
Yeah.
You don't get the response you want. And a lot of the times you never will. And sometimes a relationship ends without you ever getting a response or an answer.
Right. There's
And
no
that's,
closure.
yeah. And I just putting it out there, sometimes no closure is okay. I think if you seek closure, I don't think you're ever going to be happy with the result that you get, you
Yeah.
know? So learning to just be okay with losing people is, I think, the best way to do it. It takes time and it's never perfect, but just accepting that that happened for a reason and the
Mhm.
universe is working in whatever weird way that it does. I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason. Like, there's a reason that
Yeah.
person wasn't meant for my life, and I take it as a lesson. You know,
Mhm.
that taught me not to accept that again, or that taught me
Right.
what to look out for in the future. So, yeah, I mean, relationships, it's never gonna be a perfected thing, you know?
No, no, nothing is perfect in life ever. And, as humans, we're always learning regardless of our age. And that's something that I do tell my kids, because especially my oldest, she's very, she wants to be perfect, she's a perfectionist, such a Virgo. Um, and I tell her, no one's perfect. Nothing in life is perfect. As humans, and this is scientific, like as humans, we are always learning, you know? And it's sad to say that we're not perfect because apparently, if you're religious, we're all perfect because we're made in God's image, but
It's,
we're not.
it's
We're not,
bullshit.
you know? Um and it's I wanted to go back to what you said about you're talking to your parents and they're like, "Oh, that didn't happen. You're lying." A perfect example, and I hope my sister's listening to this and I hope she can agree with this, but like we will tell our mom like For example, one time I was visiting for the holidays and I was like, "Hey mom, do you remember when you beat the shit out of me because of this reason?" And she's like, "No, that wasn't me. I didn't do that." I'm like, "No, mom. I decided I didn't want to eat that peanut butter and jelly sandwich because I was, upset over something. And you got so mad at me that you grabbed me and you slapped the shit out of me." I can laugh about it now, but in
Yeah.
the moment, I was very, scared and, hurt. But she literally like slapped me and backhanded.
Jesus
And she's
Christ.
like and she's like, "No, I didn't do that." But, like, why do you have to be toxic? Why do you have to say that you don't remember? You
Yeah.
know?
You know damn well that they do too. That's happened with me where I'll bring stuff up to my mom about stuff that happened in my childhood and it's like amnesia. It's like, no, that never happened. I would never do that. Like, it's like, it's fine now. I'm older and like, I can, I'm over it. But like, please just
Yeah.
admit that that's what you did. It's like, I don't know why you're lying about it.
Uh-huh.
Especially when all the siblings are like, yeah, that happened, you know? It's like
Yes.
we didn't band
You
together
have
and huddle up and say, "Hey, we're gonna lie about this today." Like,
we have witnesses.
uh, God,
Oh my god, dude. I'm sorry, but it happens every time. She's always like, "No, I didn't do that. I didn't do that." Like, "Nah, you did, and so saw, and they remember."
you're gonna call me a liar, call everybody a liar because we all saw it.
Oh my god. Yeah, no. Now, I do wanna ask, the audience, basically, if you wanna send us an email telling us your toxic story, we can always, kind of do a recap on the next episode about it and, like, just talk about what was said in those emails. So our email is Desi, what's our email?
It is here's your prescription at gmail.com. You can also DM us on Instagram. The links and the email actually will be in the description. But yeah, we'd love to hear like if you could relate or what you thought about what we talked about. I want to mention thank you for the support and the love on the first episode. We had a lot of feedback, which was fantastic. A lot of people listened that we didn't expect to listen to, so it's great that we're reaching new people. I think these topics and stuff, like I said, are going to be really good for people to hear, and like I think people can relate to this kind of stuff, you know? So thank you for that. We do greatly appreciate it. I think that was really, really awesome to see. Um, but yeah, all of our socials will be in the description, our personals as well as the podcast socials. Um, and we're now live on Spotify and Apple Music. I was having a little bit of trouble getting them up there, but they are there now as well as YouTube. And so if you're interested in listening only, those are options for you as well.
And make sure you subscribe and follow to all of them. It supports us, and we appreciate every little like and comment, message, follow, all of that. Thank you
Mm.
so much. It means a lot. And shout out to the homies and the family members that reached out to me via messages for the feedback.
Yeah, thank you.
It's something different that I'm doing with Desiree, and I feel like this will hopefully help someone, you know,
Hmm. That's the
by
goal.
relating and, not feeling so alone about all this stuff in the world.
Yeah. All right.
So,
We we will talk to you guys later. Have a great day, and thank you so much for listening.
all right. Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.